Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Back again is Bonnie Ring, our Woman of the Year. We are excited to have her back here on the show once again from beautiful California. She's here to talk more about the work she does and she's done her whole life and so many accolades. I don't even know how to introduce her because there's so much to her sheet and we've been talking quite a few times now. So Bonnie, let me just first and foremost say again, congratulations on being back with us today as a licensed psychologist, author, Episcopal priest, and reverend. My goodness, you've had quite and still have quite the life. Hands go off to you, sweetheart. Go ahead.
I think the diversity of my life has kept me lively. Yeah. I think as each new thing has come along, I've just kind of added it in, and I'm still writing and I'm still seeing clients for psychotherapy. And I haven't done many retreats lately. That's more exhausting work. And I assist at a church in Half Moon Bay, so I preach and celebrate.
Beautiful. And for today, I know we're going to focus more on, you say, mental health, right? Which clearly being a licensed psychologist is super important. And I feel like a lot more acceptable to talk about today, which is unfortunate. It took a long time, but I think after the pandemic, we start hearing more about mental health and people's mental health. But you clearly being in the field, you were very well aware of mental health all along. And what did you want to share with us today about that?
Well, people often ask, well, how do I know I need to see a therapist? How do I know I have a mental health problem? I've been reading Prince Harry's book, Spare.
Oh.
It took him 33 years to realize that he needed to see a therapist, even though he was traumatized at 12 when his mother was killed. Oh. And he actually had an illusion for years that she had just hidden herself away because she was tired of the press. And his book is really a wonderful read of how emotional problems manifest themselves in ways that are real signals if you pay attention to the signals. And so one of the things I suggest people do is that if they are experiencing panic attacks or high depression or even illusions that there are creatures out there connecting with them, that they Google those images and see what the computer tells them, because it will give them a clue about how serious it is. And I think therapy is the greatest gift you can give yourself, because it allows you to really get to know who you are, and it enables you to learn how to meet your own emotional needs. But the most frequent problems that people experience are depression, which ranges from just feeling sad to feeling despondent, despairing, suicidal. There's a spectrum. The same thing with stress. It's mild, test anxiety, kind of mild, to panic attacks, to not being able to go outside, agoraphobia. So there's, again, another continuum, and finding your place in that continuum gives you clues as to what to do. I happen to think that David Byrne's books on anxiety and his workbooks on anxiety are just tremendously helpful to people. He's a emeritus professor at Stanford, and I've studied with David, and I think very highly of the ways in which he encourages people to face their anxiety and address it. Yeah. Stress is another one. And one of the things that you can do when you're stressed or depressed is do some exercise, because it brings up your serotonin, and that would increase your ability to deal with the things that are making you sad or stressed. And then I think, of course, the most extreme is psychosis or schizophrenia, paranoia. Those are things that are big red letter signs to you, that if you think somebody's following you, or you think you're being recorded, or you think that somebody is putting something in your brain. This is a sign that something serious has happened and your body chemistry is out of whack and you need to seek professional help. So that's the range.
And by the way, I know we established Dr. Bonnie Ring as our Woman of the Year, but do you have a contact information for you, a phone number or email address for us?
Or the way you can reach me by phone is 650 area code 560-8590, or Dr. Bonnie Ring, all one word in lowercase, Dr. Bonnie Ring at Comcast.net. And I receive emails and respond to them too.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. What else did you want to share about mental health today with everyone?
Well, somebody will say, how do I deal with depression? What can I do if I feel overcome by depression and sadness? And I think depression often shows itself as fatigue. It's like life has become too hard. And letting it get worse is hazardous, because once it gets worse, it gets really worse. And it gets to a point where you can't stand how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
That's when something is happening right now that makes you sad, that's one level. But some people are sad about things that have happened over and over again. And they need to look at them and see how they can address the problems that have been created. This morning, Oprah Winfrey was on CBS this morning on her new book, and it's all designed to how to change your mind so that you're happy. And happiness is not something we just naturally feel. Happiness is something that results from the activities we engage in. And if we're not happy, we need to look at those activities and see whether there's something about them that's really not what we want. And many adults learn to be not proactive as children. They get criticized and shamed by their teachers, by their parents, and by their bullied by their friends. And so they can end up in the doldrums, not knowing how to get out. And getting out is life-saving. Doing things you like doing is the best resource for depression. So that's one. Another one is, what can you do to improve your mental health? Well, the very best source is investing in your time and money in therapy. And I want to talk a little bit about what therapy is and isn't. Therapy is an exchange between you and a therapist. It's a one-on-one relationship. Since the pandemic, it often happens on Zoom, like we are right now, and yet you can still see and experience the feelings and the responses of another. A therapist will ask you questions about what brings you to this meeting, what's on your mind, what's been going on in your life that needs to be addressed. And the best thing a therapist does is they restate what they hear you say, own words, so that you can hear it and confirm, yes, that's what you meant. And it often allows you to go deeper into talking more about the situation that they've just reminded you of. A therapist is somebody that is well-trained to listen carefully, to help you identify the sources of depression or anxiety or some other mental health disorder. And they can help you make changes in the way you live your life and who you interact with, so that you are feeling much better about who you are, feel stronger, more able to take care of the things that you need to take care of.
Wow. Beautiful. Now, just curious, I mean, as a psychologist, right? A psychiatrist is one that prescribes medications to help with
Right.
mental illness, but do you also believe in some people needing medication to help this? I mean, what is your take on that, if you don't mind me asking?
No, I'm pro medication. When depression gets serious, I urge people to get antidepressants. They can be prescribed by your primary care physician if you don't want to see a psychiatrist. But the caveat is it takes 6 weeks for an antidepressant to have an effect. So you have to make a commitment to take it every day for 6 weeks. And sometimes the dosage needs to be increased because it's not strong enough. But it's a matter of getting used to having a little change in your body. It doesn't change who you are, but it does lead to a very interesting difference. When you've been taking antidepressants, you have to get more depressed to feel depressed. So it lowers the kind of the roof on your depression, and it decreases the depression, and it makes it easier to live. If I also encourage people to take anti-anxiety medication. You have to be careful with it because it can be addictive. But under the right circumstances, it's useful to get anti-anxiety medication. And I also think that one of the things that contributes to good mental health is sleep. And having good sleep habits is something that I had to be taught. I was like my father. My father was an insomniac, and if I had trouble sleeping, I said, "Oh, I'm just like Daddy," But for a long time, Daddy took all kinds of pills, and it adversely affected his alertness and his well-being. And I didn't want to do that, so I turn off the television at 9 o'clock, so that by 10:30 or 11, I'm ready to go to sleep. And I make sure I stay in bed and sleep until 7 in the morning. Sometimes, of course, if there's something stewing in my head, I will wake up in the middle of the night and I will have to address it, think about it, and then go back to sleep. I think taking things like melatonin, which increases the body chemistry that makes you sleepy, is a good idea. And starting that earlier in the evening is a good idea. Today, we have readily available non-narcotic CBD, and that helps reduce anxiety and increase sleepiness. So if sleep is a problem for you, talk to somebody about it and get their suggestions, and then try the different things that will make the difference for you.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much. We still have 10 minutes left on our show. What else did you want to share? Thank you for that response.
Well, but some people ask about how do I increase my resilience and increase my self-esteem. And I often find that people with low self-esteem are very uncomfortable in social situations. They don't know what to say because they've been told over again that what they have to say is meaningless or unimportant or stupid. So beginning to do things that increase your self-esteem, making yourself proud of your accomplishments, is very important. And that means taking a little risk, trying something you may have not tried before because you really want to accomplish it, and fighting the demons that say you can't. I think that trauma as a child is probably the most detrimental factor in emotional well-being. If you were neglected as a child, if you were criticized and as a child, if you were beaten as a child, if you were sexually molested as a child, notice I'm increasing the intensity and the seriousness of the harm.
Yeah.
You will experience flashbacks where as if the bad thing is happening right now. And it's important, if you had trauma and you've never done therapy, to seek out a trauma therapist, a person who specializes in trauma, who can talk with you about your childhood and help you work through those memories so that they are not as powerful and as damaging. There's a method called EMDR, which stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is an old term that we don't tend to use it as much anymore. It was developed by Francine Shapiro, and it is now being taught to psychologists worldwide. It helps you remember an event, but also to remember it in the context of a supportive environment, so that when it happened, it wasn't a supportive environment. But if you're reliving it, you have surrounding yourself the very people in your mind, in your imagination, who care about you, and your therapist cares about you and can ask you gentle questions that allow you to get back into the memory and work it through so that it's no longer plaguing you. The sad thing about trauma is that if you have a new trauma, you're likely to remember the old trauma as well. It doesn't ever go away completely, but it becomes manageable. And that's what you want. So those are some of the really important things. When I work with couples, I find that what often happens is they talk at each other. And instead of responding to what was said by the partner, they claim their own knowledge and their own experience and their own beliefs. And so I teach couples how to remember what has been said to them, and before they say anything in response, repeat in your own words what you've heard, so the other person knows you've heard them. If you don't do that, you escalate it, and it becomes a shouting match.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not helpful. What's helpful is if you take the time to listen to each other, you can build a new relationship based on that mutual understanding. And that's really, really important. Most couples don't come to counseling until their relationship is so bad they can't stand it.
Yep. Yep.
And, the earlier you do it, the better you're off you are, the more likely you can save the relationship, especially if there are children involved and you want to keep it.
Yeah, I agree. And Bonnie Ring is our Woman of the Year. And as a licensed psychologist based out of California, you're licensed to work in, is it just the state of California, or do you
Just
have?
the state of California. I think now there are more states that are recognizing each other's licensure. But given my age, I'm not about to start taking licensing exams. There's enough 40 million people in California that need help that I don't need to go past that. But, another useful resource is Psychology Today, their website. Psychology Today is a magazine that gives psychological insights. It's a nice, easy to read magazine. But they have a website, psychologytoday.com, and you can punch in your location and it will give you a list of available therapists and their bios.
Mm-hmm.
So when I get a call from somebody through Psychology Today, and it happens every week, it's because somebody has seen what I say about myself and what I say about the way I do therapy that makes them think that I would be a good match. And then, of course, you have to find out whether the match is real.
True.
Not every therapist is right for every client.
Got it.
We're all.
No, that's true. You're right. And so you would also, in cases like this, you would recommend others to someone else, right? If it's not a good fit, that's
Yes.
awesome. You have a large network of different doctors with different
or to go back to Psychology Today and with more specific suggestions about what you're looking for. But with Psychology Today, they send you the profile, and
Mhm.
you either respond to it,
Okay.
say I'm available, or you say I pass.
Yeah.
There's a website called Thurvo.
Okay.
It also recommends therapists.
Okay.
Again, you can pass if somebody's asking for something that you don't do.
Mhm.
The other thing that I remember is that dreams are often really your dream maker telling you something's the matter.
Mhm.
And in your dreams, you may not be a character, but you are every character in your dream.
Aw.
Sitting after a dream, even if it's a nightmare, and writing it down as if it's happening in the moment will give you all sorts of insights into what's bothering you and why.
Got it.
So
Oh,
I think dreams are just enormous resources. I recently had a client talk about his dreams, and the character in the dream was seriously injured. And I said, okay, is there some part of you that's been injured? And the more we talked, the more, yes, he found it. So using your dreams as information to investigate is really, really a good thing to do. And it takes discipline. What I suggest people do is that they have a little notebook that they put on the bedstand with a pen, and that they can write in it and not even turn the light on, just write and lower their hand each time for each line so that they have the words and they don't wake up completely. And if you need to if the dream wakes you up, turn on the light, write it up, and then go back to sleep. And you'll find it easier to go back to sleep once you've written the dream down. So dreams are another wonderful resources that we've been given as human beings.
it's so true. I love it. I love it. All right. And Bonnie Ring, if we want to reach out to you, our doctor here, based out of California, can help you. Again, she's our Woman of the Year, professional licensed psychologist for so many years, with an amazing background, and also jewelry. What do you have to do with jewelry?
Well, I did not make this. My friend
Okay.
who owns Juno, that sells in San Francisco in the Chinatown, made the earrings and the necklace. But I do make necklaces and earrings for friends and sometimes for sale. And I love doing it because it's a chance to use colors and shapes and be creative without it being really hard to do. Anybody can string a collection of beads. You just have to get the right equipment.
Well, thank you again. If we want to call you, how can we do that? Tell us your number again and email.
Sure. 650-560-8590. It's just pretty easy to remember.
It is. Dr. Bonnie Ring. Got a good ring to it.
Yes.
The pun.
Oh, I've heard that for years.
I know. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist. But pleasure having you back here on the show, and looking forward to next time we talk. Okay. Thank you so much for all you do, and congratulations once again. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home.
that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.